In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace this master cylinder with the reservoir on this Ford Excursion. Located under the hood, and of course we'll need to bleed the brakes after we're done, so let's get started. Underneath the hood, on the driver's side of the engine compartment, you'll find your master cylinder reservoir. Wipe it off if it has a lot of debris. You don't want that contaminating the fluid that's in here. Turn the cap counterclockwise and pull it off. If you read carefully, you'll see that it says to only use .3 brake fluid, so make sure that's what you have on hand and make sure you have plenty of it because this is quite a large master cylinder reservoir. Next, I want to remove all of the brake fluid that's here, and you can do that by using either a vacuum pump with a little reservoir on it or a fluid transfer pump, whatever you have that's going to get in here with a little hose and remove the fluid. Now let's unplug the connectors. One is the level sensor that is on this side of the master cylinder. The lock for it is underneath and it can be kind of hard to get to. You may need some pliers to help you squeeze that tab. Just be very gentle. You don't want to break it. You just need a little bit of extra pressing force. There we go. This was quite full of sand here. I'm going to shake that off. Next, there will be a connector here. If your truck has this sensor, we're going to have to unplug this. Same thing, just press on that tab. Might need some help from pliers. And set that aside. Next, I'm going to put some absorbent pads here because removing this as well as the two lines is going to cause fluid to drip down no matter how much you take fluid out of the reservoir. Obviously the master cylinder and the lines are still full. So let's put something here, that way it doesn't get all over the place. And remember, brake fluid does damage paint, so any painted surface that it gets on, wipe it down immediately. If you have some type of collection receptacle that'll fit here, you can use that. I just have these pads that will absorb all the brake fluid. Just going to lay them down like that. There we go. Now use a 22mm socket or wrench and break this free. It shouldn't be very tight, but you want to make sure it does break free nice and smoothly. You don't want to break it off or anything like that. Unthread it the rest of the way. Now use a 14mm wrench, and I recommend a flare nut wrench because it grabs onto a couple extra sides and it's less likely to round off the fitting and remove the lines. Break them free, and when you do this, you want to make sure that the fitting spins freely, not together with the line. That is essential because if it spins the line, it'll twist it, break it. Now you need a brake line. Once you break it free, you can actually just use an open-ended wrench and finish removing this. And just like I said, fluid is starting to drip, so keep that in mind. Okay, there's one. Push that line aside. Try not to bend it too much, although you can push it out of the way if needed. Let's do the same to the line that's in the back. Okay, see how that one's twisting the line with it? Gonna have to break that free by working it back and forth, holding the line in place, and hopefully it lets go. All right, looks like I broke it free. Just gonna give this a couple turns. Spray it with rust penetrant if needed. Perfect. Remove it the rest of the way. And there's the second line. Pull those aside. Now let's remove the two 15mm mounting nuts holding the master cylinder onto the brake booster. It doesn't matter which one you start with, just remove them both. Take that off, and now you can pull the master cylinder away. This one is actually stuck from corrosion. Now that I sprayed it with rust penetrant right where it meets the brake booster, I'm going to gently tap it with a rubber mallet. Hopefully the vibrations will help break it free. My stud is seized on this side, and it's making it very difficult to pull the master cylinder out, but at this point you should be able to just slide it out. I have to keep tapping it with a hammer to create vibrations. And there it goes. Here's a tip for you. When you see a brake booster that looks like this, it is a good idea to replace it. Even though it might still do its job, it is, well, very rusted. Now for the purposes of this video, we're going to keep using this just to show you how to install the master cylinder, but if yours looks like this, replace it. Regardless of the condition of your brake booster, I want to start by rinsing this off and then cleaning the surface before we put the new master cylinder on. The reason I'm cleaning it first and then cleaning the rust off is because I want to see all of the rust, and I clearly have a whole lot of debris here, so I want to get that out of the way first. I'm not so concerned about this area. That's just paint and surface rust on the booster itself. What I do want to clean thoroughly is the threads, the base of the studs, and of course the shaft that goes through, and this area here where there's actually a seal on the master cylinder to make sure that no moisture and debris gets in there. I'm just going to take a wire brush and scrub all this off. To prevent further corrosion from building up, since it was so excessive for me, I'm going to put some anti-seize. Now, even if you had a brand new brake booster, let's say, I would still apply some sort of anti-corrosive coating so that this doesn't happen in the future, especially right in here. Now let's take the master cylinder, slide it right over the studs, just like that. Put the two mounting nuts on and install the other one. Start these on by hand, and then we'll bottom them out. "20 foot-pounds is the torque for both of these mounting nuts. At this point, you may have noticed that I have not yet put any fluid in the master cylinder and have not bench bled it yet, and that is because I like to do it on the vehicle. So I'm going to get some lines that I made that go right in here and loop back around to the top of the master cylinder into the reservoir. That's basically going to feed the brake fluid in, and when I release the pedal, or that's as I push the pedal, but when I release the pedal, it's actually going to pull fluid back in instead of air, and that's how we're going to bleed it. So let's put the lines in and then add some fluid. Here are my lines. Like I said, they loop around and they go right into the two ports for the brake lines. Make them fit. Okay, with these lines snugged up, let's put in this sensor. With those lines snugged up, let's put this sensor in. Grab that 22mm wrench and bottom it out. To snug it, just give it a little bit extra. That's it. Kind of like a brake line fitting. You don't need to go very tight with it. You just basically need to squish it so that the two tapered ends meet and seal up. Now with our lines in, let's add some fluid. We'll fill it up all the way. And right here is where I want to stop. It's at the max line, which is basically right where this folds over. At this point, if you watch it, it will naturally bubble up a little bit, but I'm going to go inside the vehicle, slowly pump the brake pedal until it hits the floor, wait for about 2 to 3 seconds and then slowly release it. That's going to cycle brake fluid back and forth through these lines, and then I'm going to do this until there's no more air bubbles coming out of the lines. Also, if there's a lot of air in the system, you'll noticeably see the level drop just a little bit, and after that we can undo the bleeder lines and then put on our actual brake lines. Now I'm in the vehicle, once again slowly pumping the brake pedal until it reaches the floor. The level will change slightly, air bubbles might come out. Now that it reached the floor, I'm going to hold it here for a couple seconds, slowly release it. Just going to do this cycle a bunch of times. Usually if you do it 10 to 15 times, it should be pretty much all bled out. Now we have to disconnect our bleeder lines to put in our actual brake lines. I'm going to want to put the rear one on first because I need the clearance here to swing a wrench, so I can't have this one connected. Now to do that, I'm going to have to disconnect this front bleeder line. I have a cap that's going to plug the hole, otherwise brake fluid's just going to keep dripping. So basically what I'm doing is disconnecting this front one, plugging it, installing the rear brake line, then coming back to the front, and I found that that is the most efficient way to do this. So as soon as you take this out, watch out, because quite a bit of brake fluid will drip. Take that cap, should come with your master cylinder, or just use anything that you have. And now we can move on to disconnecting the rear. Get that pad underneath because brake fluid will leak. Now take your brake line, line it up, have that wrench ready, and do your best to tighten it up. Of course, without cross-threading it, it is quite easy to cross-thread these fittings because if they don't line up, the aluminum on the master cylinder is going to be softer than the fitting on the brake line, which is usually steel, and that's going to cause it to ruin the threads, and you want to avoid that. Once you get this fitting started, snug it down. That got snug. All I'm going to give it is just a little bit extra, enough to squish the tapered end of the line up against the master cylinder. So now let's put in the front line. All right, got it. That's bottomed out. Just give it a little extra. Now I want to clean all of this with brake parts cleaner so that there's no more brake fluid dripping down. Let's plug our sensors back in, this one, and the level sensor on the other side. Make sure they both click. Now let's top off the master cylinder up to the max line. Reinstall the cap. It's time to start bleeding these calipers, and on this vehicle we want to start at the right rear wheel. That's the passenger side rear. After bleeding that caliper, move over to the left rear. Then you're going to top off the master cylinder, make sure it stays full. Then move over to the right front caliper, bleed that, and the last one will be the left front caliper. At that point, you're going to want to top the master cylinder off again and feel the pedal. If it feels like there's still air in the system, continue bleeding in the same sequence, basically just repeat it until you're satisfied with the brake pedal feel. Now we have an assistant inside the vehicle ready to pump up the brake pedal and hold pressure. After a few pumps, as they hold, I'm going to open up the bleeder screw and fluid, potentially air, will come out of this bleeder screw. I also have this collection receptacle with a hose attached to it so I don't make a mess, but of course a collection bucket would work just fine as well. At this point, I'm going to wait for them to tell me they're ready to hold. All right, they're holding pressure. So open this up with a 10mm wrench. There we go, we got some air. Go ahead and pump again. All right, they're holding. We're going to do this until there are no more air bubbles coming out of the bleeder screw. Okay, go again. Holding. Okay, this was clean. Let's do it one last time. Go ahead and pump. Perfect. You can let go of the brake pedal now. I snugged this back up. I'm going to remove my collection hose. Now, if your brake caliper had a cover, of course you'd want to cover this back up. For me, I'm just going to wipe this down, make sure there's no brake fluid. If there is any, you can use some brake parts cleaner and rinse it off. And at this point, you would do the same exact thing to the other side, that is the left rear caliper, and then of course top off the master cylinder after you've bled both of these rears. Now let's top off the master cylinder up to the max line. Reinstall the cap. Now we're at the right front caliper. We have bled both rears and topped off the master cylinder. So let's take the cap or the boot off of this bleeder screw. This one has one, so we're going to save it. And I'm going to put my hose on here. This also takes a 10mm wrench to break free. I'm going to have my assistant pump up the brake pedal now and create pressure. Go ahead and pump. All right, they're holding pressure, so I'm going to open this up. All right, lots of air on this one. Go ahead and pump again. All right, this one was clean at the end. Let's do it one more time. Go ahead and pump. This was good. Let's do it one last time. Go ahead and pump. Perfect. You can let go of the brake pedal now. I got nice clean fluid. I'm going to remove my hose, wipe this off, spray it down if necessary, and cover this back up so that it doesn't get clogged up and rust. At this point, we're going to bleed the left front, do the caliper the exact same way, and then we'll top off the master cylinder one last time. Top off the master cylinder all the way to the max line. Right about there. Perfect. We'll cap this off. At this point, if you are unsatisfied with how the brake pedal feels, you think there's more air, repeat the bleed in the same exact sequence until you are satisfied. And of course, don't forget to keep that master cylinder topped off at all times. Now put the wheels back on. The wheel torque is 148 foot-pounds on all four wheels.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.